I am thrilled to be here. First of all, before we even get started, I just want to give a big thank you to the entire team that put this together. Rachel, who of course cannot be here with us, but all of the EAS team, Christy and the entire events team, our friends in audio visual back there. So thank you. Let's give them all a big round of applause. This has been great. So, like Darren said, my name is Louis Monoyudis, and I am representing the brand side here today. So hot lead, everyone take note. I have been working in digital marketing the past 15 years. I've been working in marketing overall the past 25 years. Done everything from big companies, Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, worked agency side for a while at a big one in Chicago called Leo Burnett, doing brand strategy for Motorola, Morgan Stanley, and then I've worked in the earlier stage D2C ecosystem, usually Series A, Series B brands coming in after they've received their funding through the venture or private equity folks to help put discipline, structure, process in place. So today we're going to be talking about, in the age of AI, I really believe that belief is our last true advantage. So let's just get to the elephant in the room. We're all sitting here, not just to have fun with each other, but to think about how you can actually grow revenue for your business, for your brand, and for your clients. Before we do that, though, I want to show you guys a commercial. So this keynote actually is an adaptation of one I gave in January to 700 wine marketing professionals, everything from individual vineyards to the gallows of the world. So there's some elements in here that are more brand posting, and then there's some elements in here that are really relevant to how you market to people like me at brands. But at the end of the day, it's all about creating this idea of belief and emotional connection. So this commercial I want to show you comes from Fiat. It's from the 2016 Super Bowl. So let me see if I can get this clip to play, then we'll talk about why it's so powerful.
Amore.
Subito.
Hook up with the all-new Fiat 500X. Ooh. Bigger, more powerful, and ready for action.
All right, so yes, this is a funny ad, and I think that we all resonate with it, and we'll probably think about it after you've seen it for the first time. As you also heard in the voiceover, this was so successful that it was syndicated worldwide into several different countries. So you're probably asking, funny ad, spent a ton of money to be in the Super Bowl, did it actually work? So let's go through some stats here. Now keep in mind, this is 10 years ago, so the numbers today would be far more impactful, but within the first 24 hours, they saw a 327% increase to the Fiat website, over an 1,800% increase in search for this specific model, and I know this number is not as impressive today, but 50,000 social media mentions in the first 24 hours. Keep in mind, Instagram, TikTok, not nearly what they are today. So thinking about what makes it so impactful and exciting, think about what it is they're doing. They're positioning their product as a hero. They're creating a mythology around it. They're not doing what most car companies do when they launch a new model, talk about torque, horsepower, miles per gallon, steering radius. They're not talking about any of those features. Instead, they're positioning their brand and their product in the center of a story about transformation, vitality, and confidence. You see, when we're selling something, and it doesn't matter if it's an agency service, a SaaS platform, or a final product to a consumer, we're fundamentally asking them to envision a better version of themselves when they've partnered or purchased from us. So if you think about this, yes, I want to be part of a story of transformation, vitality, and confidence. I don't really care about miles per gallon in the same way that's going to get me excited about buying a new car. So today, thinking about what we're going to dive through, we're going to chat about the state of the industry. We're going to give you a client's perspective. I know that for many of you in the room, I am an ICP. talk about some frameworks that I found successful around sales and marketing over my career. Going to give you some examples, some case studies. Some of these might be a bit more brand leaning, but take the learnings and take them to the brands you work with. Going to go through some mistakes that I've made, and hopefully we can all learn from them, and then go through with some real-life applications. After that, you guys will be ready to drink and have a party tonight as we all yee-haw with Darren. So, you're probably wondering, how is it that I became so interested in this? And it's going to take you back to the very early days when I was a freshman at Harvard University, and I made the very bold decision to concentrate or major in the highly marketable degree of folklore and mythology. Exactly. However, if you think about it, it was all about the study of narrative and storytelling. And what is marketing and branding if not fundamentally narrative and storytelling? So it seemed like more of a obtuse, erudite area of study actually formed an incredible foundation for my career as we move forward. And I remember it clear as day. It was February, 2 feet of snow outside, looking outside this window, and a professor posed a really important question. He said, what's the only difference between religion and mythology, between the pantheon of Greek gods and the core figures in the most modern and popular religions today? It comes down to one fundamental principle: belief. If you believe in these stories, you believe that they're true. They shape your life. They shape your community. The Greeks and the Romans believed in Zeus and Hera. Today, we read them in English class, like literature and entertainment. So what is this power of belief, and how can we bring it into our sales cycles? Put into this context, we can argue that belief actually really is a really great competitive advantage. So let's dive into the state of the industry for D2C agencies, SaaS partners, and brands. The reality is, it's hard. I have never seen it harder for any of us in this room and for any of the brands that I've been at Shop Talk or any of the other conferences. We're all struggling in unique and different ways. Struggling to figure out how to keep up with AI, struggling with rising CAC, struggling with inventory concerns, struggling with geopolitical conflict, tariffs, you name it. It's been quite the past few years, right? So, I think if we look back to the good old days, I'm thinking the days of like Bonobos, Warby Parker, Birchbox, you could really build a sizable brand with two key drivers. One, somewhat unlimited venture money that really didn't care if you were a profitable business. Those days are largely gone. And two, some pretty good arbitrage opportunities, specifically on Facebook, right? Unfortunately, that's no longer the case. And in the marketing side of things, we are constantly being asked for quick hacks, this idea of growth hacking, right? I think those days are long gone. And anybody that's trying to sell them to you or to me comes across as just inauthentic and out of touch. If anybody has ever worked brand side, has anybody in the room ever worked on the brand side of things? Yes. Does anyone currently have a brand that you also run in addition to your agency or your SaaS? Yeah? If you don't, I would encourage you, it doesn't have to be a huge scalable brand, set up a quick, easy drop shipping company, put together some networks of friends who can do the different areas of expertise, but just really see what it is like to be on the brand side today. First of all, after you go to Shop Talk or Commerce Next or any conference, you will get inundated with a series of cold emails. Some from people you met, mostly from people you didn't, and they all start with the same subject line. I'm going to lower your CAC. I'm going to increase your ROAS. I'm going to make your LTV sky high. Operational efficiency, you name it. And you know where all those go? Into the trash, because they mean absolutely nothing. Not to say cold emails don't have a conversion rate. They do, but I think there's a better way to get in front of people on the brand side. On top of it all, AI, right? This whole conference is dedicated to AI. Shop Talk was all about AI. Everybody's talking about AI. I don't know about you, but I feel so overwhelmed and behind the ball, even though I'm listening to podcasts and going to conferences and trying to keep up to date on exactly what it is that I should be doing, both as a consumer, a brand owner, an advocate, to stay on top of it all. So, enough already, right? Ready to pull our hair out. So, it's not all doom and gloom though. I want to share with you a framework that has been really helpful for me and that I put in place with every brand that I work at, and something that if you aren't already doing in your sales and marketing messaging is something to consider. Most brands, most products, most agencies talk about their features. This is what we can do for you. This gets back into those subject lines: CAC, ROAS, LTV, CRO, whatever. Let's take an example from the consumer world. Think about the world of betting. Everybody talks about thread count. Do any of us really know what the ideal thread count is? I'm not even sure. Think about when you go into retail. You have a very small amount of packaging on betting, but the most important, the biggest font, is always about the thread count. So thread count is simply something that everyone is talking about. That's a feature. Now, the brands that do it better connect the dots, and they say, why should you care about thread count? Because softer sheets. Oh, okay, great. But if you're only talking about your features and your benefits, it's a race to the bottom in terms of price point. On the brand side, especially once you get into a marketplace like Amazon, where the dupes and the competition is very high. The brands that do it really well are the ones tapping into emotion. So don't talk to me about thread count and softer sheets. Convince me that when I go to bed, because of my busy life and how stressed out I am, that I deserve the very best for those 8 hours, hopefully, of sleep I can get. That's the emotional connection. And if I tether your brand to that in my mind, I'm going to be willing to pay more. So enough about the theoretical framework. Let's talk about the science. Science has shown that what happens in your brain when you're presented with data is 2 areas of it light up. And I would argue that features and benefits are a subset of general data. However, when your brain is confronted with stories, with emotion, with narrative, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you have 7 parts of the brain lighting up. Wouldn't you rather engage with your customers, with your prospects, with 7 parts of their brain lighting up versus just 2? I certainly would. So, I tried to get a little avatar that looked a little bit like me, but I don't think it quite worked. So before, this is the feature pushing, right? Don't just push a bunch of features. Talking about integrations and speed and data is totally boring. All your competitors are doing it. And someone yesterday was saying that the average amount of RFPs brands are asking for is between 3 to 5. I would say it's actually a little bit higher. It's a ton of work for you and your teams to put those RFPs together. And on the brand side, we just consider it the cost of doing business for you guys, right? So don't come at me with the same thing everyone else is. Instead, think about the pressure that I'm under as the chief marketing officer at a venture-backed company. Think about what the VP of growth is that you're talking to, who has a CMO or a board or a CEO, who has insane growth targets, who has these incredible compressions on their overall margin structure, who is now being asked to have an EBITDA positive growth structure as opposed to just continuing to scale at any cost. If you can go into those conversations and say, I know you're under a lot of pressure. I bet that you're really trying to figure out X, Y, and Z. Here's how we can help you. You're going to have a very different discussion than when you start that call automatically just going through the entire feature set of how great your technology or your overall offering is. So, thinking about this, what we really want to get to, brand side, agency side, SaaS side, is loyal customers. Because what's the most important thing you can have is a customer that refers someone else in their network. And if any of you don't have a robust referral program in place, I absolutely encourage you to do so. Be generous. People actually will really do it. And I'm in so many groups of people that are asking for referrals, they're asking for honest feedback, and people are pretty brutally honest. So if they have a really bad situation with the rep at the company, with the agency's deliverables, we're gonna all know about it, right? But if we have a good experience, you want us to be saying that as well. So, thinking a bit about how agencies and SaaS partners can get into this, I encourage you to think about what does your agency, your service, your platform, your technology mean in your customer's life? What is the better version of myself as a marketing leader that I'm looking to turn into by partnering with you? Think about that through that lens. What moment does it sit inside? If you're working with a CMO, try to figure out when my board meetings are and check in with me about a week later to understand exactly what it is that I'm gonna have top of mind. If you're working with a VP of growth who has a really demanding CMO, like me, find out when their check-ins are and understand when it is that they're at a pivot point to understand when things are gonna be changing. How often are you actually just saying, hey, I saw this cool article in The Economist or New York Times. It's not exactly your vertical, but there's something in here that I think you should pay attention to. Has nothing to do with whatever your specific product or service is bringing to the table, but it's showing that you're thinking about them. I'll be honest, I've only had one partner in those 25 years really go out of their way to show me that they're thinking about me outside of their scope. And then what does it allow them to feel? So there's all types of sales strategies out there. I'm not a sales expert. I will tell you what resonates with me. Do not come in hot. Do not come in desperate. I know that everyone in this room is under incredible pressure to hit your goals, to not only keep your job, but to hit your bonus. But if I can smell that desperation, I'm automatically starting to wonder what's wrong. I think the sales strategy that at least I prefer is to come in and to say, you know what? We might not be the right partner for you, but let's do some discovery and figure out if we are. If not, there's some people that I can refer you to. We might not be the best Amazon agency for you because we really are focusing on people that already have a huge brand presence. We might not be the best CRO agency for you because you guys don't really have an in-house dev team that's going to be able to be responsive to some of the suggestions that we have, etc. All right. The other thing is thinking about who it is that your core audience really wants to be and tapping into that. Again, what is the version of themselves they're looking to be by working with you? So if you're in the creative iteration field, one of these companies that's maybe spinning out a bunch of different ads for Meta, is it the adventurous creative who's really working hard to keep the brand on trend? Or is it the marketing leader that's looking to be on the edge of AI? Now, I can tell you that everybody on brand side is getting tremendous pressure to show movement, to report up to the CEO and board about what we are doing to leverage AI, both with our partners and internally. And also, the subtext is to justify our roles and our expenses. Because if anyone's ever looked at the P&L for a D2C brand, the absolute highest cost center is marketing. Between the media spend and the overhead on the operations for the team, we are the most expensive. And the challenge is not only do we have to show growth at the top line MER level, which is where I try to keep things when I'm having these discussions with the people above me, but at the individual channel level. So if TikTok is doing great, well then why the heck did I put any money into Meta and Google? How many of those conversations have you guys all been confronted with, right? Super annoying. The other thing that you have to just think about is that we are constantly being hammered with people, well-meaning, who say, you know what, I got a buddy, he's just killing it in this one channel. Completely different vertical, completely different size of business, completely different audience. We need to build that out. We need to have a loyalty program. We need to be here. We need to be there. And there's only so many times that you can say no without looking difficult. So sometimes we'll bring on a partner and say, okay, build this for us. We'll see if it works. And then if it doesn't, we'll just shut it down, right? So find out what the real motivation is for them to bring you into the project. And the next, this one's close to my heart, is the CMO who knows exactly which levers to pull. So we all know timing gets tight, end of the year is coming close, we need to hit our sales targets, we need to show profitability. How are we going to do that? So really making sure that you're a partner for the CMO so that they can show their team that they know which levers to pull. All right, now a couple brand examples I want to walk you through who I think do this just great. The first is Liquid Death. I think the water, canned, bottled industry in general is just fascinating because this is a free commodity, right? Pretty much anywhere in the developed world, you can go to a tap and you will be fine drinking it. Liquid Death, however, has created an incredible allegiance with subcultures. So if you look at Liquid Death's marketing, they're not talking about minerality, they're not talking about pH levels. They say mountain water, who the heck knows where this said mountain is? They are tapping into punk, skater, biker subculture, so that if you're at a NASCAR race, Coachella, Burning Man, and you have this in your hand, you feel like you still belong. You still feel cool. They have created that idea of belief around their brand. Sprite. When I was at Leo Burnett, we were working on the Sprite account in Latin America. And we were noticing that sales were starting to stagnate. So we did a lot of focus groups. And if you aren't doing a lot of discussion with your audience, that's one thing I definitely encourage. And what we realized is, in addition to people drinking Sprite, like most of us do, kind of as an everyday beverage, it was also seen as a go-to beverage for special occasions. So much in the way that champagne is drunk in the US, at the time, Sprite was being drunk in some Latin American areas. So we had to tweak our marketing, not just to show Sprite in everyday situations, but at quinceañeras and baptisms and weddings, these moments of celebration and community. But the only way we got to this insight was by doing a lot of understanding of our customers in that audience. And I think the one challenge that the brands have that you're working on, and maybe that you have, is just because something worked for someone over here does not mean it's going to work for them over here. Think about getting into the depth of each different opportunity. Next, I was brought in by a private equity firm to work on a distressed asset. It was a plus-size women's swimwear brand. And no pun intended, they were completely underwater. The brand started about 20 years ago when there wasn't any competition. So at the time, talking about underwire construction and wider shoulder straps and mesh really was the differentiator. But by the time I came in, you had Swimsuits for All and Torrid and all these brands that were catering to the plus-size market, and nobody cared about this brand anymore. So we had to do an incredible amount of customer research to find out why women were buying from us. And what we found was both heartbreaking and heartwarming in some instances. We heard that before women would find our product, they wouldn't go to the beach with their kids in the summer. We had one woman who went to the expense of building a pool in her backyard so she could have summertime fun with her family and not feel embarrassed with her friends and neighbors seeing her. Our bathing suits were not cheap. They were over $100, which is expensive, but they had an incredible amount of engineering in them, which would prevent some situations that can be embarrassing if you bend over at the beach and it's not the right type of bathing suit. And they said that this is really why they came to us. So once we changed our marketing messaging from, hey, underwire, mesh, shoulder straps, to we understand that you're really concerned about spending time with your family when it's summertime, those are the messages that turn the brand around. So all that to say, listen up. If you guys don't have a robust system for collecting data from your customers, those who are current, those who turn you down, and those who churn, please make sure you're doing it. Do those interviews, do the one-on-ones, record those transcripts, and find out the 5 reasons why people like you, and more importantly, the 5 reasons why people are concerned or not buying from you, because that's what you really need to overcome in your marketing messaging. And I'll give you a hint. Whenever anybody says it's budget, it's cost, that's never the reason. Because if the value is greater than the cost, people will buy from you. So you need to figure out how to communicate that value, and that value is not simply based on your features and your benefits. All right, we're getting close to the end, but I do want to just take it back to the folklore and mythology days about Icarus. And this is a warning, especially how many of those in the room are founders who are also now leading your companies or the CEO? Okay, a fair amount, right? Which makes a lot of sense for the agency world and the SaaS world. So what I see when I come into a brand, and it is a founder who is now also the CEO, is there's a certain point of time in which it's very autobiographical. The decisions you make, how you want the brand to grow, what you want it to look like and sound like, it's really an extension of you. But there's a tipping point when your core audience may no longer be you. And it takes an incredible amount of overcoming that sense of ego to say, you know what, just because I no longer particularly resonate with this color or this messaging or this creative or this influencer strategy doesn't mean it's not right for my brand. So making sure the data is in there, and there's a lot of data heavy folks in the room, making sure the data is in there to continue to make sure that your team's messaging and your vision is actually growing in line with what your customers truly want. Now, this comes from experience. About 2013, I launched a company. It was a crowdsourced designer-level platform. We worked with designers to allow people to choose their favorite fabric, color, and silhouette, and then vote on it. We partnered with New York Fashion Week. Winning styles came down the catwalk. We got covered in New York Times, Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch, all of it. And I had this whole cohort of people around me from my fashion days who lived in New York City who said, this is so cool, I can't wait to buy from you, of course I'm gonna do it. But there were other people who said, I don't get it. I don't really have a design sensibility. Isn't that what designers are supposed to be doing? How soon is this gonna come to me? It seems expensive. And what I said was, they just don't get it. We're targeting those early adopters, and by the time those early adopters have gotten it, now the other people are going to be in line ready to do it. And the sad thing is I surrounded myself with an echo chamber of sameness. And as soon as I heard anything I didn't want to hear, my ego wouldn't allow me to do anything aside from reject it. So my message to anyone in the room in a leadership position is please don't follow suit, because how many of you have heard of cutting your bias? Yeah, none of you. All right, so how do you strike gold? You strike gold through these consumer insights and by understanding the emotional levers that you can pull to work with them. I think I'm almost at time, but I did have a couple questions that came through in advance, so I'm just gonna run through them very quickly. If AI is commoditizing execution, what should agencies actually charge for going forward? My advice to you is don't just be a solution, be a partner. Now, everyone in their pitch says we're an extension of your marketing team, we're an extension of your operations team, we're an extension of your customer service team. Now, some of that requires partnership from the brands to do so, and some are reticent to do it. But if you're only bringing a very particular solution to that table, then as soon as that solution's fixed, I don't need you anymore. But if you actually are that partner I can go to, if you're actually that person I can say, you know what, I just had a really hard call with my board, and they are hammering me because we are investing in whatever channel or solution. Can we come up with some verbiage together I can send back to them? Or can you help me think about a way we can do some kind of incrementality testing? Whatever it is. But the easier thing for me to do in that situation is just to end the relationship, right? So if I have a good relationship with my partner and know they're gonna step up to the table, we're gonna continue to move forward. What are the smartest ways you've seen agencies use AI today? Now, I'm humbled to even talk about this because there have been so many people who are so much smarter about this speaking this entire conference. What I would say is the agencies that are really taking it to the next level are not the ones who are saying, hey, we analyzed all your customer reviews, or we saw what was working in Meta or Google. They're the ones who are saying, you know what? I think you guys are completely missing out on launching this entirely new product category. Have you guys actually thought about this? Or you know what? You guys are really stuck on charging for shipping. Like, you just really need to drop that. Whatever it is that's more of a business decision as opposed to something in your purview, that's how I think you're gonna actually get ahead. And then for SaaS companies selling to marketers, how do we avoid sounding like every other platform out there right now? It's hard, right? And because a lot of your differentiation really is in those products and features. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if you can come at me with an emotional hook, nobody else is doing that. So for those of you in the room, if you're able to take that to heart, you're already gonna be a big step ahead. And that's what I got for you. Thank you, everyone.